And let me get back to the main screen because I know we have more people on the main screen. We've got Rob and Craig in there, and Robin's coming. And then I guess we'll start. Well done, everyone. Good to see everyone. I'm Chris Henry. I'm just going to start with a few slides, and then I'm going to hand it over to Brad. And here we go. Welcome to the new participants, and welcome back to those who are returning. And I'm going to mute Robin there. Okay, good. So we'll just talk about the format and how we do it, and then at the end, Brad's going to share out the notes that I'm going to be taking, where it's going around. We sort of go round table on the whole meeting. Charlotte's just coming in. We go round table on the meeting, so but certainly take notes because he does a summary, and let me just bring up some slides. We have about 6 slides we start with that Brad and I put together between the calls. Okay, I'll just run those. Now they're also narrow. I've optimized them so that they fit in the Instagram windows for those Instagrammers who are watching. Okay, so share screen, and I'm going to share that one. Boom. Okay. Can you see that? Got more people entering. Yeah. See, you send out the notice. We send out the notice and people sort of pop in, which is beautiful because that's the intention.
Yeah, your screen share is working now, Chris.
Thanks, Brad. So Lyme Brain, how do we cope? Lyme Community Call, Building Hope Together. That's us. Second call. Thanks. It's the third Wednesday of every month, so thanks for being here and participating. And so we just have 8 slides. So let's go. So let's just be mindful that we're going to be recorded. I usually repost it. And we repost on Lyme Community Call. I might rebroadcast on Restream on multiple channels, and that's how that works. We each take responsibility for how we use the educational information provided, and we'll consult with other professionals in what we call our circle of care. So you have people that are taking care of you, or caregivers in circle of care, professional, non-professional, depending how you take that. And no one else is really liable except for yourself. And so we're all liable for ourselves in what we do. Okay, so that's sort of our approach. And our guidelines are we're open to hear others' opinions. Please don't speak longer than 2 to 3 minutes. And we're okay to talk about solutions and treatments, but no direct selling. You can PM during or after. You can do that in Zoom, or you can figure out the person probably on Facebook. You can try and find them. Some people come in with different names. I'm open to that, whatever you need to do to participate. The main thing is you get a place for us to reduce isolation, create comfort through sharing, and building hope together. And those are our 3 inspirations.
I found one of the big things, I'd had the opportunity, I'd attended a couple of live user group meetings, and I just found the being together and hearing so many common stories of others who are going through the same thing, it really helped to share. And then not being able to have the live meetings anymore, we thought, why don't we do the very best next option and have a live Zoom meeting? So that's where this came from.
That's where we are now. Exactly. It's beautiful.
Well, thanks for spearheading that, Brad.
Most welcome. And to Chris. Chris is our tech.
That's beautiful. Yeah, we're live out there. We are there. Oh, it shifted. It shifted on the screen. That's interesting. All right, I'll have to work on that for next time. Okay, Instagrammers have to be patient with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the intro to Lyme Brain community share. So we're going to do a share. We tried to do intros last time, and then it turned out that we all just started talking about the subject, and we thought that was a natural flow. I mean, that way everyone gets to participate and you get to speak. Then once we get through everybody, then I round table it again. I sort of chair it, and then I move it around to whoever's ready. And one story will feed off another, and before we know it, we're an hour and a half finished. Yeah. So during the share, intro yourself, any Lyme brain symptoms you've had, and your coping strategies, and
points 3 and 4 are things that we do afterwards. I'll write up a summary, put some notes together, and put a post up on the Lyme community call page, And then Chris posts the video as well. I know of at least a few people who were able to go back and watch last month's recording. They went back in and watched the recording of it, so they were happy to have that there.
Yeah. And so let's go to this slide now. I think you're going to lead off with your story, Brad, and refer to this slide.
Well, I will go through the Lyme brain and the symptoms. Many of you know are just ridiculously long, and I didn't try and list all of them. There are definitely others on this list as well. I'm going to go right into a bit of my story. I'll introduce myself a little bit more and cover off a couple of these points that where I felt very, very affected by two in particular. So my very, very first symptom of having Lyme disease was late in December of 2015. And it wasn't brain related at that point, it was heart related, but that just sets the stage. So like I say, my first symptom, my heart actually stopped. I went down on the ground out cold, and subsequently a number of months later ended up with a pacemaker. But that was my first sign. And then from December of 2015, for the next 2 years, I just started developing multiple symptoms, cross-systemic symptoms, all kinds of things started going wrong. And besides my heart stopping, the one that was absolutely the most unsettling was Alzheimer's. I was getting to a point by the fall of 2017, I was getting to a point where it was almost not possible for me to drive. If I went out driving, I would get out there, I'd forget where I was going, I'd forget where I was. It wasn't until I came to a familiar intersection or something like that that it would come back to me and I'd realize where it was or where I was. I never had any doctors say, oh, it's Alzheimer's. But whenever you hear anything about Alzheimer's and anything that anybody talks about, I was going through it. So that was late into 2017. What I did to cope, and I feel very, very lucky that the changes that I made addressed the majority of my Lyme symptoms. So in October of 2017, I completely revamped my diet. I'd heard and read enough about no dairy, no gluten, no sugar. And I thought, well, I'm not getting any help from any doctors here in Ontario, Canada. I thought if I don't follow the advice that I'm getting online, I can't hardly expect the doctors to help. So I quit overnight. I quit dairy, gluten, and sugar. And within 6 months, the majority of my Lyme symptoms just went right into remission. But at about that time, I was still really, really frustrated with the system, really frustrated. And not getting any help, any advice. All of my symptoms weren't gone, but the majority of them. And I ended up developing what people were calling PTSD. I don't know exactly how to describe it. I've always been out of the group, out of the crowd, in the family, the one who always just sucks it up and takes it, accepts things, don't raise a stink, accept things for how they are and what's happening. And I think what it's maybe done is it over the years built up a lot of stress. It built up a lot of what I needed to release. And in 2018, through the summer of 2018, I just lost all sense of biting my tongue. As quiet and accepting as I had been, I was mad. And anybody who said anything that I didn't like or I didn't agree with, I didn't care what they thought of me anymore. I just let them have it. I see a couple of smiles. I'm sure some can relate to this. One of the things that hurt me the most with this, though, was that I was saving up things with people who I had. One instance was I've got an identical twin brother. So we had a very long-standing, close relationship. And I'd never really let him hear some of the things I should have let him hear. I let him have it. I let my mom have it. I let my partner, Linda, of 8 years, I let her have it. Anything that had been building up, I just let it out. And I felt totally, totally fine with it. It was my right. Why shouldn't I? What I realized, looking back, is I was a little bit out of control. I think some of the things that I had to say might have been acceptable, but I think the way I was delivering them and saying them absolutely weren't. And I think it took time. One of the biggest things that took me to get over that part was I really had to look back and realize that these people who I was freaking out on and getting mad at really, really did love me. They really did. They weren't mad at me. They just didn't know what in the heck to do. We think the doctors didn't know what to do. Well, our family members didn't know what in the heck to do either. And they were doing the best thing they could do, and that was just retreat and get the hell away from me. Because I wasn't being very nice. And it took, I think it took a lot of realization. It took a lot of mindfulness to just realize that I had no right to be acting the way I was, even though I wasn't being treated well from a medical perspective. And I just had to stop it because it wasn't going to get me anywhere. And fortunately, I was able to get through that phase and build back relationships with a number of very important people who I could have completely isolated. So going through a pacemaker, not brain related, but that was first, and then Alzheimer's, and then PTSD. I'm sure I could touch on a number of the other ones on that list, but those two are the ones that really hit home for me, and that's how I've managed to get through them. So.
And how long have you had the Lyme now? Again, Brad?
My very first symptom, I knew for sure I got Lyme, and I had Lyme late in 2015. So I'm about 4.5 years in now of knowing I've had it. Who knows how long it may have been dormant. I could have had it for a long time before that.
Okay, so at least 7 years. And you had, if I recall the history, you had a Canadian test and it didn't show anything, and you had a US test and it verified, right?
That is exactly what happened. Yep.
Okay, and then you talked a little bit about nutrition and stuff, but just to finish off your sort of spot, what are those main things that you did to cope?
With regards to diet?
No, just in regards to the Lyme brain, to sort of find this mindfulness state. How did you get there? For yourself, everyone's gonna have a different journey, but
Yeah,
you talked about you came to a place of mindfulness and maybe even forgiveness, maybe even forgiveness for yourself, and you started eating foods that were sort of nutritious as possible, right?
Probably what the most straightforward answer is what it took me was a couple of weeks of forced vacation in the hospital. Just being away, being in that ward in the hospital and being locked down just really forced me to sit back and take stock of what was really going on, and made me realize I sure as heck didn't want to get back there again. There was no meds. I didn't take any meds to help out. It was strictly realizing that I had to take responsibility and manage to get control of my thought processes, and realize that when somebody said something or did something that I didn't like, don't take it personally and don't be mean in how I respond.
Yeah, and now you said you were locked in the hospital. How did that come about?
My family was concerned about me, and they managed to get a court order to have the police come and escort me off to the hospital for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So my reason for asking that is it just proves that's what happened with your Lyme brain, as we're calling it tonight. It took you to a point where others were so concerned about you, they sort of put you into confinement in the hospital to make sure you'd be okay, out of love, of course.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I know. So it can certainly go that far. We might hear further stories like that tonight. Do you have anything else, Brad?
No, that's it. I'm happy to hear other people's tales and hopefully some success stories, and let's share the floor.
Yeah, for sure. Does anyone have any questions for Brad before we move on?
Yeah. Did they have any interesting tests run on you when you were in there?
No.
Oh, I muted you, Brad. I muted you, mate. Just unmute yourself, would you? Sorry about that. That was a slip of the finger. Yeah, you're back. No, you're not back yet. Let's go unmute. Bottom left, the microphone. Just click on the microphone. bottom left. You're back.
No, not really, Mark. I wouldn't say they did. They did one test. I'm not even sure just what it was. Just an MRI. They did some sort of brain scan the one time and just said that everything was fine. Nothing else showed out of the ordinary.
So
It was yeah. It was mostly. It was so eye-opening to be in there and be with so many other people who had so many other issues and conditions. One of the things I think I did was diagnosed at least 2 other people who probably had Lyme disease who were in there with me. We started comparing notes about things that had happened to us, and I said, "Well, you got Lyme. You got the same thing I do. It affected you differently." And they said, "Yeah, I think I probably do." And it just helped. It was in the hospital that had previously done my testing and said that I don't have Lyme disease, won't acknowledge the cause of why I'm in there, but there I am locked up in there. I spent the entire 2 weeks educating everyone who would listen why I was there and what chronic Lyme disease was.
Good, good for you. Thanks, for Mark. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, I usually just go in order of the screen. I think Mark, you're sort of first, actually. You were first in tonight. Do you want to go? Would you like to talk about your experience with Lyme brain?
Well, I don't actually have a whole lot of experience with the Lyme brain side of things. Mine was more on the joint pain side. Although I'll hold up this little bottle of minocycline.
Yeah.
And I had some very bad side effects when taking that antibiotic. And actually, I had a lot of trouble walking, and my reflexes were totally off when I was taking it. And it's actually a cousin of doxycycline, but when I read up on it a bit, this one passes the blood-brain barrier much more effectively. So my gut feeling is it wasn't actually a side effect, but it was probably attacking Lyme in my neurological side and affecting me from the die-off.
Yeah.
So, I haven't actually had the guts to go back on it. So
What was it called, Mark?
minocycline.
Minocycline, yeah. Sounds like it was took you the opposite direction.
Oh,
Thank you.
like I was didn't like driving when I was on it because I would shoulder check and then I'd have to re-shoulder check because I just like my reflexes were just so bad. I wouldn't go in my wood shop and use a power tool. Like I was kind of useless for a couple of weeks after taking it.
Yeah, it sounds like it induced some of the things that maybe Brad was feeling.
Possibly.
But it could be that because sometimes pharmaceuticals and other things will activate the Lyme. Maybe that activated them and it was messing with them in a way that they reacted that way. They pushed up against something in your brain because they do get in the brain for sure.
Yeah, well, that was my first inkling that it really might be on the neurological side as well. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for that share. Any questions for Mark? Okay, I'll take you off the spotlight. I'm doing the production here. You're being on the big screen. It helps with the Instagrammers too, because then they just have the next person. So the next person is Manon. Manon, did you want to go forward?
Sure.
Did you want to do a share? Yeah.
Sure. Good evening. So going back to November of 2016, bit, not sure what it was, suspected a tick bite, and suspected it was a nymph because it was the poppy seed. Long story short, 7 days afterwards, the big, not the bullseye, but the big rash, almost looking sepsis in the leg. Of course, was advised to go to walk-in clinic. Go to walk-in clinic. I tell him I think this may be a tick bite, spider. I don't know. Of course, looks at it. Had to cut into it and remove everything he could because the leg was so inflamed and red. And so I asked him at that point, can you please do a culture on it? So sure, of course, he did the culture. Came back as staph, which is normal for any infection of the skin. So about a few weeks later, I started getting a lot of pain up in the muscle of the leg because it was at the bottom of the leg, almost going into the sciatic area. And from there on, of course, I had developed a fever and the chills and all the symptoms, but 7 days of antibiotics. I think it was amoxicillin. Did the 7 days. Anyhow, moving forward, right before Christmas, I came down with pneumonia. And 3 months later, still pneumonia. Courses of antibiotics and everything imaginable possible that you could think of. And I was in bed, bedridden. I slept 24 hours. Wouldn't matter what I did, exhaustion. And then I became better from the last dose of antibiotics they gave me. But as the months progressed, I started having a lot of aches, muscle aches, burning sensation, joint pain, headache, vomiting, you name it, IBS, and just everything getting worse. And of course, I'd be going to see the family physician telling me, oh, no, depression, anxiety. And it's like, okay, well, maybe. Eventually, anyhow, I started having cognitive functions, like behavior, rage. Oh my God. It was almost like I started having this film right over my eyes. My vision wasn't good. Brain fog, you name it. And especially rage, falling out of bed, doing stairs and falling downstairs. And it's like, what is going on here? Insomnia, lots of insomnia. But when I would finally fall asleep, then I could sleep 12, 13 hours. Restless Leg Syndrome. It was just ongoing. And finally, anyhow, I thought I was dying. And, my family physician kept telling me, oh, depression and anxiety, there's all of this. And it's like, no, you don't understand. I know what depression and anxiety is. And what I'm going through right now is definitely not this. There's no way. And, oh, yeah. So really fighting the system all the way, even like seeing a psychiatrist, and he's saying, well, yeah, depression, and so on and so forth. Stress to the limit, anxiety, gaslighted to the max. Finally, anyhow, I said, well, after all of this, I said, I'm dying. I have to be dying. There's something definitely wrong with me. I'm just dying. And like Brad said, I'm not one usually to say too much, but I could fly off the handle and just go up one side of one person and come right down the other side of it. And so at one point I said to my doctor, I said, okay, I think I have MS. And I'm trying to, first it was diagnosed me with lupus. And then, oh, no, it's not lupus. Then it's, oh, well, maybe it's fibro. And then, oh, well, fibro, yes, but you don't have this. And depending on when they did the blood work, the elevation of inflammation, so on and so forth. Then it was rheumatoid arthritis. Anyways, finally I said, this is it. So I went and seen a naturopathic doctor. And within 3 months of following me and trying to give me supplements, and of course my vitamin D totally gone. It was 49 was the highest I could get it. And it's like this Lyme, and of course I have Lyme and 10 co-infections. So finally, anyhow, one day I'm having an IV treatment, and I'm starting to see a little bit of improvement. I mean, I went in there almost dead. And I'm saying, oh, wow, I can, function a little more, but not much. Finally, she asked me the one day, she says, do you ever remember having a bite? And I looked at her and I said, yeah, I did. She said, do you know when that was? And I said, as a matter of fact, I took a picture of it. And I went back to my phone, of course, and looked, and sure enough, November 2016, and she says, I think you have Lyme. I think you have Lyme disease and co-infections. So it was like, of course, I didn't understand Lyme, right? So long story short, doing some investigative work, she says, we're going to ask your family physician for serology. Okay, sure. I said, of course, going into my doctor, tell her, my naturopathic doctor thinks I have Lyme. And she looked at me and she laughed and she said, no, you don't have Lyme. And I said, well, can you do the test? Sure enough, did the test. Comes back positive. Imagine, positive in Ontario. So anyhow, and then my naturopathic doctor says to me, she says, you don't only have Lyme, but you have, and she named them all. She named 9 of them. She missed one. And she wrote it all down and sent it to my family physician, and my family physician kind of just like shrugged it off. Long story short, sure enough, had my blood work sent to Armin Labs in Germany. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say any names here, but I am. Anyhow, sure, came back confirming exactly that I had, Babesia and Bartonella and Mycoplasma and Ehrlichia and EBV, and the list went on. And poor little naturopathic doctor had missed one. Upon seeing my physician, she told me that no, she says, because your ELISA, the ELISA is positive, but the Western blot is negative, so you don't have Lyme. And when I showed her the results from Germany, she just kind of looked at it and said, well, I don't understand that because that's not Canadian. So anyways, makes long story short, I fired her. I said, I'm not coming back to see you again. And she, of course, I had requested an MRI of the brain because I thought maybe at the time it was MS, right? Because all the symptoms kind of led to that because of the falling and the imbalance. Anyhow, of course, the results from that showed that I had white matters in the brain. And of course, I knew at that point, reading about neural Lyme, that no, this was definitely neural. Anyhow, so this was, and I was just diagnosed in February of 2020, just before COVID hit. So since then, of course, I've been doing a lot of totally gluten-free, sugar-free, dairy-free. Finally, after 3 years, my D level is norm 150. It's hitting the 150 mark, so that's good. I also did 50 treatments of HBOT, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And that in itself removed a lot of the brain fog, the cognitive, it's unbelievable. A combination of the two, of course, and diet. But at least now, before I wouldn't have comprehended. I could read a sentence, and I'd have to start back from the beginning. I couldn't have I was lost for words. Word searching was awful. And at least now I can actually explain to you and talk to you and just have life again.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And that's H-blot, you called it?
H-blot. So it's short for hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
Okay.
H-blot. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
Okay. It's where they give you more oxygen, right?
Well, actually, what you're doing is you're going into a chamber, and you're descending a plane. You're ascending, and then you descend. With hyperbaric, as you
it's a hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Like diving. It's like diving. Yeah, you're going down.
Exactly.
Okay, beautiful.
You're breathing 100% oxygen, which goes into your cell, which goes into your bloodstream, which really, there's a cycle too, with Lyme. There's a cycle of 28 days, and so.
Yeah. Well, Lyme actually, there's actually a 2-day cycle with Lyme. Once you get right into the granular part of it, because of the hatchlings and the workers and all that. But yeah, there can be the monthly cycle too. And I apologize for interrupting. We have a special guest who comes in during the show or during our community call, and he's on the show with me. His name's Phil Jacobs. He's from Toronto Sound Therapy. So we're going to take questions for you, Manon, in a second. But Phil, you're on mute there, mate. But Phil comes in and he just likes to spread some love and light to all of us. And he's a musician. He's been doing this for many years. How long have you been in Toronto Sound Therapy, Phil?
That's been about like 8-9 years now.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah, but I've been a musician for 35 years-ish.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. And you recovered from a few life traumas?
Did, yeah. I did, yeah. MS and psoriatic arthritis. and substance use disorder. So there's been a few, yeah. So yeah, I'm just trying to tune my guitar really quickly. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, and just make sure your sound settings are on the advanced or whatever in the Zoom there. I think
They should be.
it should be good.
Oh, there it is. Right, there we go. Thank you. Is that better?
Oh yeah, it is. There it is. See it's a live sound check.
Yeah, when I was diagnosed with MS, I lost all ability to play guitar and sing as a musician. And then it took me about a year to recover and to play basic guitar again and sing. And that was how long ago now? 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I write songs, and I do believe that playing music was a big part of my recovery from the nervous system. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So these are I'm going to sing you 2 songs. Thank you for allowing me to join you guys this evening. So instead I find my love inside my longing heart aches for you to be by my side. Oh, I can't live without your love anymore. Without your heart anymore. This is a song about a discussion I had with my soul and my spirit, with my body. When I look out through your eyes, my heart beats so hard inside. Arms wide open, deep embracing, loving, holds my heart out in the light, and I realize, well, I can't live without your love anymore. And I won't live without your heart anymore. Ooh, yeah. Story that was the biggest lesson to myself around self-love. So my energy can't exist in my body if I'm not loving my body and loving myself and being okay with myself. This last song we're gonna leave you with is another conversation with self and self. What do you want? What do you need? Where does my love fit into your needs? All I want right now is for you to see love for you comes easily. I know everybody's lonely, but I can talk to you, let alone walk to you. You know something that I don't know, swinging to and fro, from your lips to my flow. What do you see? That it's not really me. Where is your fire? The one that burns desire. Here we go together into the depths of despair. I found this pain of deceit flowing in the air. We know something that you don't know, swinging to and fro, from your lips to our flow. We know everybody's lonely here, but we can't talk to you, let alone walk with you. What do we need? What do we want? All I want right now is for you to see love for me comes easily. I know everybody's lonely here, but I can't talk to you, let alone walk to you. I know something that you don't know, swinging to and fro, from my lips to your flow.
Thank you, Phil. We got some thank yous on the chat there.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for allowing me to share, and thank you for allowing me to be here with you guys today. We'll see you soon. Okay.
Yep. Take care. All the best.
You too, man.
Okay, bye, Phil.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Let's see here. I've got you spotlighted still, Manon. You can hear me, Brad?
I can too.
Okay, beautiful. Okay. Let me see here. I'm gonna take that one off. The windows moved on me there when he left, so I spotlighted someone else. There we go. Good. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Manon, to the hyperbaric oxygen? I added from Phil's just in the rough notes, playing music and self-love. He added, which are two other sort of mindfulness things that we can do, and the the self-love is sort of the realization that Brad had that I took down to take responsibility for yourself. I think you probably had a realization that you loved yourself, Brad, and perhaps, and that it was worth trying to figure out what was going on. And so there you go. Now, let's see, are there any questions there for Manon? Do you want to speak up? Anyone has a question? Okay.
Mary, this is Robin here.
Go ahead, Robin.
Marion, you were talking about the hyperbaric chamber. How often did you participate in that? How often did you do that?
Well, it was a total of 50 treatments.
Mhm.
And I traveled to Montreal Monday to Thursday and had naturopathic IV Myers cocktail treatments on Fridays. And I did that. I started in September and I finished in mid-January.
Okay. Is that anything? I've heard also of Rife machines. I don't know I don't know very much about that. Has anybody done that? No. So, but hyperbaric, I have heard of that. Okay, thanks, Marion.
You're welcome.
Where were you traveling from since you were going to Montreal?
Well, I live about an hour south of Ottawa. So I live in I live in Cornwall, Ontario.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was traveling to Montreal and Pécourt, Quebec,
Oh, okay.
which is about 50 minutes from my door to where I was going for treatments.
Good. Yeah, Mark's in Ottawa, I think.
Oh, are you?
Although
Oh,
I'm actually going to Cornwall tomorrow. So.
oh,
There you go.
welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm originally from Kingston, which is sort of that way. but
Yeah, you're not too
further
far.
the other
Yeah.
direction. Yeah. So I have Patty French is next. Patty, did you want to do share?
Sure. I guess probably the easiest way to start my journey is the fact that this has been going on for me since the 80s. And I was originally diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And that was about a 5 to 7 year advocacy that took me from the time I was in my late 20s till the time I was 25. And so nothing really was known a whole lot about it. It was one of those things that was kind of the catch-all when they couldn't figure anything else out. They did all sorts of history with me because I have a family of that has a lot of arthritis issues, rheumatal issues, all that kind of thing. And so going through rheumatologists, that was kind of where my whole sort of stand started from. And I'd been dealing with that off and on for many years. And as I kind of put it, it was almost like I would get to a point where I would get really bad, and then I would be a fight to get back on track and kind of almost put myself into a remission sort of state and be able to get on with life. But it never was really something that at that point kind of knocked me on my arse. And then in 2016, my dad lost his significant partner of 30 years, and he was struggling and not doing well. So I went back to Ontario to see him. And we're from in and around that Kingston, Smiths Falls area. And I got a bite and never really thought a lot of it at the time, simply found it when I was in the shower, kind of knocked it off, thinking that just because I'd been out with a run with my dogs that I just got something on myself. Well, it became extremely itchy, and I got kind of like a red rash, which is normal for me. I mean, I've had, psoriatic type arthritis symptoms in the past, and I've had psoriasis since I was 10 years old. And so, and skin issues and detergents and scents and so on and so forth. So I really didn't think a whole lot of it, but I thought, well, maybe I better go talk to the doctor. So I did. They sent for the ELISA test. It came back negative. And so they said, nope, that's not what it is. Probably nothing to worry about, kind of carry on. So I spent about a year or so there with my dad, and then came back to Alberta where I've been most of my life. And prior to me coming back, I was starting to have all kinds of issues with both of my dogs. So I got both of my dogs tested through the vet, and they both came back Lyme positive. So we started treatment with them. and moved back out here. And I thought, you know, if they've got it, I had that one bite. And I started doing some research, and I kind of went, you know, this is really starting to sound with what my problems are. Like, this is not just fibro anymore. There's a lot more to this. I'm having a lot more problems. I'm having a lot more fatigue. I was starting to lose my words and sentences. I was having difficulty putting intellectual speech together. I was a safety consultant in the oil and gas industry. I was working on, you know, high risk sites and in positions dealing with incidents and so forth, and driving on, you know, the big mine roads in a regular truck that, you know, I mean, the potholes out there pretty much swallow a regular truck. And I just thought, you know, this is starting to get a little scary for me. There's something else going on here. So I was going through regular Western medicine, and they did all kinds of testing. They did MRIs, they did CT scans. I went to pretty much every specialist you could possibly think of. Well, it was Sjogren's, then it was lupus, then it was, well, maybe you have rheumatoid, you just don't have the Rh factor. You know, well, maybe it's just your fibro basically on steroids. And I went, no. I'm telling you, people, that's not what this is. There's something more to this, and I'm going to keep looking to find it. And so I've been off work now for about 2 years because I really haven't even been able to be in that type of situation anymore. And being out of town like I used to be is no longer an option for me. And I worked nights in a lot of cases. So with all the medications, all of the different things they had me on, and my dogs being tested for the Lyme, them getting worse. And I started doing a lot of healing therapy because I started to have a lot of rage issues. One minute I'd be fine. The next thing I'd be throwing things across the house. And it finally got to a point one day I got so upset and frustrated with a baby gate because I use them for my dogs that the next thing I know, I found myself in the middle of my kitchen floor, jumping up and down on top of this baby gate, trying to destroy it, and went, whoa, this is not good. So I started seeing a psychiatrist, and I started going to see a energy healer who was a shaman. And we started doing energy work and Reiki, and started going to healing circles and all of that kind of thing, and really trying to work from the mental perspective to see, okay, maybe I'm just getting so frustrated with all of this that I need to work on me. And that was kind of how all of it sort of came about. And then finally I went, you know what? I need this Lyme question decided on once and for all. So I went to a naturopath and I said, I want to be tested. And we sent my testing off to Armen in Germany, and it came back with positive for Lyme and positive for Bartonella, quite high actually for Bartonella. And that was the only co-infections that they found. The other thing that came to light with all of this is that I've had mold exposure, and they estimate for probably at least 25 years, if not longer. And that the fibro may actually have been induced by the mold. And because I grew up dairy farms and grew up in old farmhouses with lots of mold and many different opportunities to have re-exposures, as well as the line of work that I was in, that over time that, and then the Lyme just kind of kicked everything off and put everything into hyperdrive. So I've been under treatment now since September of last year. It's a slow process for me. I've gone into 2 healing crises. And so we are slowly working again. We've also discovered that I'm now anemic and I have hypothyroidism because it's done damage to my thyroid. And it is the easiest way for me to explain it now. I can actually form a thought. I can actually talk without feeling like, for a lack of a better way to put it, that I'm stupid. And I actually have good days now and then. And that is pretty much where I'm at right now.
Well, thanks for that share. That's beautiful. You've done a fabulous job to share that, but also to come this far in what you've been up against. So well done. And there's hope out there, and part of the hope starts with this call, and even more can come from this. So
I finally found a good naturopath, and we're definitely on the right track. And there's finally that light at the end of the horizon, and hope again. And that was probably the biggest thing that I needed, was because I had lost hope, and I felt like all I was doing was surviving.
Yeah.
I wasn't living anymore.
Yeah.
So
I know.
if-
Go ahead, Brad.
If you were to pick what practices and what you're doing with the naturopath right now that's helping, what would you attribute to your improvement?
I definitely think that the healing work and some of the trauma work that I've been doing has helped me as far as my ability to cope, as well as kind of my mindset and the perspective, in that it is giving me that hope, and it is giving me a bit of that fight again. The other aspect is that I actually have a doctor now that doesn't think that I'm insane, and actually not only listens to what I have to say, but he also had Lyme and Bartonella himself, so he can relate to what I've experienced and kind of give me some insight from his perspective, as well as he's very when he explains it to me, he puts it into terms that I really can understand. He's also given me a lot of reading tools so that I can actually, not feel like I'm in the dark, or that they're talking above my head when they're explaining things. And so having somebody that understands, having somebody that has been through it, and explaining, I was like, let's go hard on this. Let's do this right now. What do we got to do? How do we got to do it? We finally got an answer. And I was like, that's the way I was going to do it. And I think he kind of felt, well, maybe she needs to learn what a healing crisis is. And so I had one, and it lasted for 2 months, and I thought I was in hell, and I've decided that's not the best route for me to go. And so now I'm kind of at that point where it's like, okay, we know now what's wrong. We have some tools to deal with that. I'm building my toolbox for coping mechanisms, and I can actually find a way to move through it. And groups like this, and finding other like-minded people who have experienced it, instead of just thinking that you are nothing but a sloth on your couch,
Just being
and
dismissed.
gain 60 pounds in less than a year, that, maybe there's a problem.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
Any questions for Patty? Okay, thanks, Patty.
You're welcome.
You want to say hello? You want a lemon popsicle? Okay. You gonna say hello? Okay.
Hi, Juju.
Yeah, we're gonna get that in just a minute. Okay. We're just gonna introduce the next person. The next person is actually Robin Craig.
You're muted.
Yeah,
Yeah,
There we go.
Here you
Hi,
go.
can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay. This first time that I've been on this forum, and I can relate to absolutely everything that everyone is saying. It's my husband, David. We're here on behalf of our daughter, who's actually the one that has Lyme. And like Patty, we think she's probably had it for about 20 years. And she has gone through everything that you have gone through as well. And she finally, she went through university suffering this, she did well. She's a high achiever, but she finally said, I can't pretend I'm not well anymore. She just kind of said it just is too hard and exhausting. And she went to many, many doctors, like all of you have, and was told that she had fibromyalgia and it was all in her head. And she has herniated discs, which obviously were aggravated by the Lyme as well. So finally, we went to a homeopathic doctor a couple of years ago, but she was put on a protocol, but we didn't find the doctor very sympathetic. And Lorna was so sick with it, with all the Herxheimer responses. So she started to see a Chinese doctor who's been absolutely wonderful. And she's on a treatment now. She's into her 8th month. This all sounds a bit very wild, but she's doing bee venom therapy. And it seems to be working. It's going to be a long process. It's probably going to be another couple of years, but she has been sick, we think, since she was about 20. So She's my hero. She's absolutely my hero. She's so brave. And she does, I really related, Marion, to what you were saying. And also Patty, that and Brad, the Lyme rage that happens. And we as her parents are kind of the targets in some ways. So we have really learned how to work through that. And she has as well. It's incredible what she is having to suffer through. So I'm listening to all of you. I think you're all heroes. At the fact that the medical profession has absolutely no interest in finding out what this is all about in Ontario. They make you feel you're completely crazy, that it's all in your head, and it's not. We finally sent her blood test off to the Armin laboratories as well, and it came back positive. So I can really recommend that. And I would like to know more about the hyperbaric chamber. So I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that, Chris. Anyway, she's struggling. She's exhausted. She goes through the Herxheimer responses when her body, I think probably when the toxins get released. And then she comes out of it for a few days and she's encouraged. So she feels on a whole that she's 20% better. And that's a gift in many ways. So as far as she does talk about brain fog and depersonalization and forgetting her words, and she has a lot of joint pain. She had a lot of trouble walking on pavement. The other day though, she went for a walk with a cane and did okay. So the frustration is for us is not being able to find a doctor who will support her in testing to see whether any of this is working or not. Because I know it affects her adrenals, and I think somebody else mentioned anemia. So Lyme is one of those things that seems to take over your body, and but she's struggling, and she's, even in all the emotional, those kind of emotional rages that come up, we've learned that it's nothing personal, that we just have to keep talking through it and support her. And luckily, we have the resources to be able to support her physically and financially. So, but having a forum like this is really great. So thank you for listening to my story.
She's very lucky that you've come to understand what she's going through. A lot of people don't find that. So thank you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Could you give a little information on the bee venom therapy? I've heard of it, but
Yeah, again,